Hello friends, I'm Samir and I welcome you all to your own YouTube channel Aryabhatta. Friends, today in this video, which is based on the subject of logic, which is for art students, we are going to continue our previous chapter, that is the theory of inference. In fact, this will be the last part of the topic, the theory of inference, which is contraposition. So, contraposition will be the last part of the topic or the chapter, the theory of inference. Before contrapositions, we have discussed conversion and obversions. So, this is the last part of the theory of inference, which is contraposition, will be the today's topic of discussion. Now, what is the contrapositions? We can say it is another form of immediate deductive inference where the main objective is to form an equivalent propositions for a given proposition by transposing the subject and the predicate terms by their components or complements. Okay friends, so here in this process of contrapositions we are going to get an equivalent propositions, means a proposition which will have the same logical meaning by doing some experiments on its subject and predicate terms. And what are those experiments? We'll discuss gradually. Now, unlike the conversion and obversion, it is not an independent form of immediate inference. So, it's not that we have done in case of conversion and obversion, that will do some changes and will get the conclusion of the statement, and it is not independent in the form, it is perhaps dependent. The propositions and the conclusion, the premises and the conclusion here will both be dependent on each other. It is not an immediate or independent form of immediate inference. So, how to form the contrapositions or how to get the contrapositive of a given propositions? Now, to form the contrapositive of a given proposition, we first obvert it and then convert it. Then, at the end, again we convert the result. That means we used to get the contrapositive of a given propositions in three different stages. First obversion, then conversion, and then again obversion. So obversion, conversion and obversions, in these three processes or three steps, after that we'll get our contrapositive of the given propositions, which will be logically equivalent to each others. So here the propositions or the premise that we are using, its name will be simply as propositions. No special name is used for it. Just like in the case of conversion or obversion, here we will not have any special name. The premise is called propositions and the conclusion will be called contrapositive. Okay friends. Now the contrapositive of a given propositions may be obtained by replacing the subject term by the contradictory of the predicate term and the predicate term by the contradictory of the subject term in the given premise. This is the basic rule. The basic rule to get the contrapositive from a given proposition is very simple. Either we can adopt this three steps, that is obversion, conversion and obversion, or we can directly apply this basic rule, and this rule says that we can replace the subject term and the predicate term of the propositions by their contradictory opposite terms. That means subject term will be replaced by contradictory of predicate terms. Here contradictory means negations, negative or negations. So subject S S represents the subject term and P represents the predicate terms. Then S will represent by negation P and P will replace by negation S. In this process, the statement that will obtain will be called the contrapositive of the given propositions. Now you friends know there are four type of propositions in logic, and they are of AEIO type. A type proposition says its structure is all S is P. Here S is subject, P is predicate terms. E statement is no S is P, I is some S is P, and O type of proposition says that some S is not P. So these are the basic structure of AEIO type of propositions. And you know A and I type of propositions, they are affirmative propositions. E and O type propositions, they are negation propositions. Now in the next step we'll learn how to get the contrapositions or the contrapositive of all these four type of propositions one by one, and we'll observe that what are the changes that are being made to get the propositions in this four type of propositions. We'll learn them one by one. Let's start the process of learning. Now first of all, let's come to the contraposition of A type propositions. Now I told you friends, the first step will be the premise step. Here the premise or the propositions, the first statement is all S is P, it is the A type propositions. Now we'll get the contraposition in three stages. That means obversion, conversion and again obversion. Now if we'll make the obversion of all S is P, then we'll obtain no S is non-P. Then if we'll apply conversion on no S is non-P, then it will become no non-P is S. Keep in mind that we already know and we already remember the process of obversion and conversions that we discussed in our previous videos. You can follow that one also if you have any doubts in that. Now after applying obversion on the statement no non-P is S, we'll get all non-P is non-S. So you see what happens here, all S is P, this is changed to all non-P is non-S, and that happens, and this is the contraposition of the A type propositions. So we observe that all non-P is non-S is again a A type proposition. So the contraposition of A type proposition will be again an A type proposition. And here what happens? Here everything remains same, only the subject S is changed by negative P predicate and the predicate P is changed by negative S. In this process we obtain the contraposition of A type propositions. Now come to contraposition of E type propositions. Here same basic three steps will follow here. The E type propositional basic structure is no S is P, is the premise here. Now if you apply obversion on it, it will become all S is non-P. Then if we'll apply conversion on the second step, we'll obtain some non-P is S. And again after applying the obversion on the third step, we'll get some non-P is not non-S, and it is an O type of propositions. Okay, some non-P is not non-S. Okay, so it is O type propositions, you can follow it. So we obtained from this result that the contraposition of no S is P is some non-P is not non-S. So the contraposition of E proposition is an O propositions. Now come to the contraposition of I propositions. Now let's follow the steps here. First of all, write down the structure of I propositions. The structure of I proposition, which is the premise here, is sum S is P. Now if we apply obversion on it, it becomes sum S is not non-P, which is an O type of propositions. It becomes O type propositions. Now it's time to apply conversion on O type propositions, but we know O type of proposition cannot be converted. It's the basic rule that we discussed in the topic of conversions, that O type of propositions does not have any conversions. So that means it cannot be moved further. We cannot move further and we cannot proceed further. That means there is no contrapositive of I type of proposition. So I propositions has no contrapositive at all. Okay friends. So I type propositions cannot be contrapositive. Now come to the fourth type of proposition, that is O propositions. So the contraposition of O propositions, let's discuss. Steps will follow as usual. First of all, write down the structure of O propositions, which is the premise here, and that is sum S is not P. First of all, let's apply obversion on it. So it will become sum S is non-P. Then apply conversion on it. It will become sum non-P is S. And again apply obversion on it. It will become sum non-P is not non-S, which is again an O type of propositions. So the contraposition of O type propositions, which is sum S is not P, is sum non-P is not non-S. So the contraposition of O proposition is another O propositions. Okay friends. So in this way we discuss the contraposition of all four type of propositions. Now let's discuss them in one single table so that you can remember it for a long time. Now the table of contrapositions, here we have two columns, premise column and contrapositive column. Here I have written the premises where the four basic type of propositions with their structures are written, and here on the right side I have written the contrapositive if it is possible, and you see all S is P is contrapositive is, all non-P is non-S. So A premise becomes A contrapositive. E type of premise structure is no S is P becomes O type of premise, that means sum non-P is not non-S. I type of propositions, which is sum S is P, does not have any contrapositive, its contrapositive is not possible. O type propositions whose structure is sum S is not P is again an O type of propositions, structure will be sum non-P is not non-S. So this is all that we discuss in our topic of contrapositions of four type of statements. Now friends, what actually we discuss in our all the previous 2 or 3 videos in the topic of theory of inference, let's discuss them in one single table, which will definitely help you to understand it further. That is the combined table for immediate deductive inference. Here at the beginning I have written premise, then the converse statement, then the obverse statement, and then the contrapositive statements. Here you can see A's conversion will be I, obversion will be E, and contrapositive will be A. E's converse will be E, obverse will be A, and contrapositive will be O. I's converse will be I, obverse will be O, and contrapositive not present. O's converse not possible, obverse is I, and contrapositive is O. Okay friends, so I think this table will help you to remember all the total concept of theory of inference, immediate inference. So hope you will apply on this all this concept. You will remember it for a long time, and you will apply this concept in your further calculation of and simplification and answering different questions. So for now, thank you very much for watching this video.